In this video, I'm going to show you how to make these boxed or banded pillows. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that I'll do in order to make this boxed pillow is I'm going to cut out my 3.5-inch boxing. This is already on the diagonal because I think I made welt with this previously. Your fabric runs this way. This is the selvage here, and the other selvage would be over there. Obviously, the stripes run the warp of the fabric. We want to cut our boxing on the diagonal, so we have that diagonal stripe around the edge. So I will fold that in half, line up this bottom edge with the line on my cutting mat, and grab my cutter and my ruler. Here's my ruler, and I'm going to cut this at 3.5 inches. Okay, so there's my boxing piece. I think I'm actually going to need a little bit more, so I'll do another strip. Rotary cutters are super fast and easy, but you have to be very careful, because I've seen people cut and accidentally jump up. They were pushing real hard and jumped up, and I saw people cut their finger off there. Don't do that. Okay, now to cut the actual pillow. I am going to use a 20 by 20 IKEA pillow form, feather IKEA pillow form. So I want to cut my pillow to be 16 by 16. Because we've got the box around the edge, we want the squares to be quite a bit smaller than the pillow form, because that boxing is going to add size to our pillow. So we're cutting our squares 16 by 16. And I'm lining up my fabric so that the stripes are matching exactly, because I want the same stripe on the front and the back. Okay, so I'm using my tapered corner pillow template from Rolly. And I love this thing because it makes it fast and easy. It makes the corners tapered so you don't have dog ears. It's clear so you can see through it and know where you want to line up your fabric. Let's say I wanted these two stripes down the center of the pillow. You can move this around so that your stripes are perfectly centered in between the center. I think I'm actually going to do this one stripe. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll go ahead and try to conserve fabric and go with a white stripe in the center. So anyway, here's my 16-inch mark. Here, 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 and here. So I'm going to make sure that I'm lined up with it in the center, and I'm lining up these 11s to the outside of these two red stripes there. Okay, so now I've got it where I want it, and I'm going to mark the template. I'm just going to use a pencil, so hopefully you'll be able to see this. So you just draw through the 16-inch cutouts. Follow this line and draw through here. And I get a lot of questions because I used this template in another pillow making video, and I get a lot of questions as to where you can get this. I have links in the description box below. You can get it either directly from Rolly, you can get it from the Home Sewing Depot, or you can order it on Amazon. So check those places with the link and see where your best price is. But this is what I use. Okay, so now you can see the registration marks on there. I'm actually going to throw a couple pins in here to hold the two layers together as I cut, so that my stripes don't get off. I want my stripes to be exactly the same front and back. Okay, now you may want to go ahead and join your lines, but since I do so many pillows, I just don't do that anymore. Okay, and then the next step is to go ahead and attach your boxing. So I'm gonna need a hair more. So I'm gonna go ahead and attach these two pieces together to make my boxing longer. So once your pieces are all cut out, I've got my front and my back and my boxing, I'm going to go ahead and attach the boxing to one side of the pillow form. And I'm gonna have my stripes running up and down, so I'm gonna have my zipper at the bottom. So I'm gonna start at the bottom so that my join is at the bottom. So that's where my seam will be, at the bottom. You don't wanna put your seam up there at the top because you'll see it all the time. So don't do that. So we're just gonna pin this all the way around. And this is a little bit difficult because my fabric is very thick. Once you get to the corner, you're gonna put a little snip. We're gonna move in about 1/2 inch and just put a little snip there so that this will wrap around that corner. See that? So see how we bring that there, open that up, and it goes right around that corner. I'm going to stop here and show you this corner closer because this you can actually see with the red fabric and the white fabric, the way that the corner looks when you get around the corner. Now we're back at the beginning here. What I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna pin all the way up. I'm gonna give myself a little bit of space there. I am going to push these down till they meet, and then I'm gonna put a pin right there where they meet at the table there. I'll put another pin here. And then the first thing I'm gonna do when I go to my sewing machine is I'm going to pull this away and sew that seam right there. So now I've got this all pinned, and I'm gonna take this, sew that seam, and sew all the way around. So I'll meet you at the sewing machine. So here we are at my sewing machine. I'm gonna go ahead and sew this piece here to join this whole boxing piece. And for some reason I've got red thread in my, but that's okay. We'll use it because it'll make it easier to see the seams on video. Okay, so I just sewed straight across. I'm going to trim down that seam. And you could go ahead and overlock that or zigzag it, but I'm just going to press it down. So now that seam is sewn and it's on the bottom where the zipper is going to be, so you won't see the mismatched stripes here. That's why you never want to do your join at the top or at the sides, because you will never see that. So you see how nice and flat that lays down now? We'll open up that seam, and that is where I'll start sewing my boxing onto my So I'm approaching another corner here, and I'm going to bring you in closer to show you how I do these corners, particularly on a real stiff fabric like this. We're approaching this corner, and you've got this flappy thing here. So the way I do it is I approach this corner with my fabric folded down the same direction as what I'm sewing. So you get into that corner. I like to backstitch in my corners sometimes just because it holds the corners better. Drop your needle into the fabric, lift up your presser foot, rotate the pillow, undo that flap and fold it to the opposite side. Drop your foot down and continue sewing. So now we've got to put the top piece on here and pin that to the boxing. So the best way to do that, so that you know that you've got this piece, the front piece of fabric lined up with this top piece, is to go ahead and mark the center of your pillow so that you can line this up, line up your top piece. So fold this in half corner to corner. Make sure your corners are lined up perfectly, and find that center on the other end and clip out a V-notch there. And do the same thing on the bottom. Line up the corners of your face fabric. Find the center there. Clip out a V-notch there. So you've got a nice V-notch to line up. So now let's go to the table, line this up, and pin the top on. Okay, so here we are at my cutting table. This is the bottom piece with the boxing sewn on, and I've got my top notch and my bottom notch, and I've got my top piece here. So now I'm going to do the same thing with this, and I'm going to find the center of this, cut out a small little V-notch there, do the same on the bottom. Now we can line up, oh, it's the boxing that needs to be notched out. Okay, so now I'll line that up and pin. And now I'm going to have to notch out the boxing here, 1/2 inch in to get around this corner. So we're pinned all the way around. We're going to take this to the sewing machine and sew it, leaving this bottom open because this is where we're going to put our zipper. Okay, so I'm going to start sewing. Okay, now we're going to install the zipper, and I actually bought just some all-purpose zippers from Walmart because I couldn't get my zipper pulls to install on my zipper by the yard. So I bought a 14-inch zipper from Walmart. So you unzip it partially. We're going to place it in our opening, and you're going to put it pull side down because this is the correct side and you want the pull to be on the correct side. So I'm going to open up this seam here and lay my zipper in that seam, and I'm going to pin it on both sides. And I'm going to just pin this edge with the edge of this side and that edge with the edge of that side. All the way down to even where you've sewn that corner. Okay, so that's one side pinned down. Now pin down. So that's the opening. Now we're going to pin down this side to this other piece. We're all pinned down both sides. Now make sure that before you start sewing, you open up your zipper enough so that you can turn your pillow around. We're going to change our foot to our zipper foot so we can sew next to the zipper teeth, which is this is the zipper foot. And we're just going to sew down close to the zipper teeth. Make sure you back stitch. Okay, so you can see I have my zipper foot on and I'm sewing right. And I've got my needle adjusted to the side, and I'm going to sew right next to those teeth, being careful not to sew into the teeth. And this is not an invisible zipper, it's just a regular zipper, so it will show a bit. An invisible zipper, I did put an invisible zipper on my blue striped pillows, and it's wonderful. You can't see the zipper at all, completely hidden. This one you'll see it a little bit, but it's on the bottom, so you back stitch. Okay, so that's one side done. Flip this over. So getting past the zipper pull generally makes the stitch line a little crooked. So if you need to get in tighter to the zipper teeth there, you go back and close up your zipper a little more or open it up one way or the other and then sew that line of stitching in a little bit closer to your zipper teeth. You almost always have to go back and get around your zipper pull closer in. Okay, let's turn this out and see how it looks. Okay, so now we can go ahead and open this or turn this right side out. We've got the zipper installed here. And you'll see how this line right here is the stitching on the zipper, and this is actually sewn the corner of my boxing. So the zipper will be hidden a little bit in the stitch of the boxing. So let's open this up, and I probably could have opened this up a little further, but that's why it's important to leave it open some, because if you don't, you're gonna sew your whole thing shut and you'd have to open up a seam in order to get to your pull. So let's turn this around and push out our corners. This fabric is so stiff, it's actually an awning fabric. So it's super stiff. That's why my sewing machine sounded so awful, even though it probably really needs to be oiled and cleaned. Here's my 20 by 20 IKEA pillow form. Open this baby up. What I do is squish it down, fold it in half, squish all the air out, stuff it in like that. This zipper, this zipper opening is very tight. I probably should have opened it up a little bit more, but it's okay. Once you get your pillow in there, so it's all in there. Now you just want to make sure that your corners are in the corners. See, you can kind of stuff that into that seam there. So it's not invisible, but it's not bad, and that's the bottom. So see how we've got that nice diagonal banding all the way around. So cute. Diagonal banding, and you see how my stripes from front to back are exactly the same with the white stripe in the center.